So Barb, we've got the transmission out of your Dodge pickup apart. This is what it looks like when it's all taken apart. Now, we'll go over some things with you as far as what do we find inside. The whole reason we're taking it out is on the torque converter here. There's going to be a lockup lining which is going to be located around here, and it's going to go all the way around the converter, all on the inside in this edge here. And as the computer, when the conditions are correct, the computer is going to command this clutch inside there to come on, and if it doesn't see it come on, it's going to set a P0740 code, which is what you had stored. And basically that's when the computer commands the lockup to come on but doesn't see the RPM drop like it should. So when it was cold, it worked okay. We did have our 200 or 300 RPM drop, but when the transmission heated up to operating temperature, we lost that. The engine RPM while we're doing 100 kilometers an hour was a couple hundred RPM higher than it was when it was cold, and that's because that the lockup clutch in there was no longer engaging. So we've got to look at the reasons why. Now the converter itself is going to be one possibility as well. When you look at the color of the oil, you can see how it's been too hot. It's a brown color. That's in all likelihood going to be caused by the lack of lockup. That when the converter locks up, it helps cool the oil and gives you better fuel economy, but the main thing is helps cool the oil. So by regaining our lockup control and having lockup when it's hot, that fluid is probably going to stay a lot redder, and it's probably going to be good for a long time. So in the pan, you can see on the magnet here, we've got to have, it's a fair amount of metal that's on there. The pan gasket, which is this, is not the factory gasket. So we know the transmission's been serviced once at least, and so this material is too much material no matter what, but the fact that the pan's been cleaned before makes it even worse. So that's a lot of material there, a lot of metal. One of the sources of the metal is going to be in this bearing in the overdrive section, and the camera is not going to do a good job of picking it up, but this dull area here is pitting on the race. So these rollers here, each one of these rollers is rolling along that surface, so that has to be perfectly smooth. And if we look at it, you know, it basically, yeah, the camera doesn't pick it up very well, but you know, there's pitting on that race, and you know, that bearing is no good. The other two bearings here have just a slight amount of pitting on there, but this bearing here in the overdrive section is quite bad. When we look at the clutches themselves, this is the overdrive direct clutch. There is a little bit of slippage on there, a little black line, but really it hasn't been slipping a lot. The front clutch, which comes on for third gear and reverse, a little bit of discoloration on there, but realistically this clutch wasn't really slipping. The rear clutch, which comes on for the forward gears, it looked to be in good shape. Our low reverse band, which comes on for reverse and the manual one holdback, there is a little bit of slippage here. So you know, probably from the filter being restricted from the material going through it. Our overdrive clutch, which comes on for fourth gear, same situation, it looked to be okay. The front band, which comes on for second gear, you can see the black lines here. So this material here where it's lighter brown, that's what it should look like all the way across. So we do have some slippage on this band. This band is notorious for wearing out anyways, and so we end up putting in a band that has this style of lining, which is a dark green lining, which is a far better lining. So it ends up lasting a lot longer. We do have on our sun gears, this sun gear, there's a little bit of pitting here. So it's not too bad yet, but there is definitely a little bit on that sun gear. And on our overdrive sun gear, same situation, right where the red light is, we've got some pitting there as well. Camera doesn't really show it that well, but that's, you know, it's going to still last for a long time, but we most definitely have a little bit of pitting. On our valve body, this is going to be our governor solenoid there, and this is our pressure transducer for the governor solenoid. You can see this has a magnet, and so it's attracted a lot of metal, so you're going to have a bunch of metal that's inside there. This design of solenoid has been replaced in the aftermarket with a much better design, so we always recommend replacing that solenoid with the with the Borg-Warner one, which is a far better one. It's a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, and does a much better job in all. So that's pretty much the inside of the transmission. That's what we found. Eric will contact you with our cost estimates, and we shall go from there. Thanks.